Yo, what is up, epic gamers? Today is the day that I'm finally recording that Gimmick Puppet deck profile. I wanted to do it for a really long time, but this deck is just, for me at least, a constant work in progress. And I always find it hard to show a completed version because I want to bet 100% that after this deck profile I'm gonna go back on the deck and think, ooh, maybe I should have added that, or maybe I should have taken that out. This is the deck that I have at the moment, main deck and extra deck. So as you can see, some of these cards are in Japanese, like that Bisque doll. That's because it's not out in English yet. It will release on September 27th. But for the people that are also big Gimmick Puppet fans like I am, I want to put out this deck profile so you can take a look at some of the cards you might need to get before the set drops in English. I don't think many of them will rise in price because the Gimmick Puppets aren't that good, but you never know. So let's get to it. So for the main deck, we'll start with the new cards that will be out in a few weeks. We have 3 Gimmick Puppet Bisque doll. This is a level 8 Gimmick Puppet monster, Dark Machine. She can special summon herself by discarding one other Gimmick Puppet from your hand, which is great, can trigger stuff like Dreary Doll. It can also banish itself to make your other puppet monsters untargetable. Also, this card doesn't have any restrictions, so you can special summon her and you're still free to special summon whatever else you want. It's not like Dreary Doll where it says, ooh, if you XC summon with this card, you can only XC summon Gimmick Puppet. Sadly, her banish effect, just like the next card, are not quick effects. You can only use them during your turn. So the next card is 3 Gimmick Puppet Terror Baby. If this guy is normal summoned, you can special summon 1 Gimmick Puppet from your graveyard. So if you summoned Bisque and you discarded a Gimmick Puppet monster, of course, for her effect, and you can still normal summon, you can normal summon this guy and special summon the monster you discarded with it. He also has 500 attack, so he's a machine dupe target, which is also a very powerful card in this deck. And he also has a banish effect, just like Bisque doll. And his banish effect says that your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to your Gimmick Puppet effects, which is also not a quick effect, so only during your turn. And also, this guy has no restrictions, so you can special summon him, normal summon him, use him for anything you want, no problem. Then we have some cards that are already out in the TCG. We have the Man of the Hour, the legendary Gimmick Puppet Humpty Dumpty. So when this guy is either normal or special summoned, you can summon another Gimmick Puppet from your hand, including another Humpty Dumpty, but you can only use it once per turn. This card is great. He's also a machine dupe target, 500 or less attack, and this guy also has no restrictions, so if you summon him, special summon him, whatever, you can still go into other combos. Then we have 3 Gimmick Puppet Dreary Doll. Dreary Doll is okay. She isn't as good as she was before the new support. I used to love this card, but the fact that she has a restriction that says you can only use this card for an XC summon if you're XC summoning a Gimmick Puppet XCs. And in my opinion, the Gimmick Puppet XCs are okay, but not that great. So she is a machine dupe target yet again, but like I said, she can only be used for a Gimmick Puppet XCs, but you can still use her as a link material, so that's pretty cool. And she can revive herself from the graveyard by banishing another Gimmick Puppet from your graveyard. Then the last Gimmick Puppet main deck monster, we have Gimmick Puppet Magnet Doll. I used to run more of this guy. He's a free special summon if you only control Gimmick Puppet monsters and your opponent controls monsters. Since we're also using an Orcust engine in this deck, there aren't really many opportunities to make use of his special summoning effect, but he's a level 8. You can use him for trade-in, so that's one of his better uses in my opinion, but he isn't as good as he used to be. Then we go into the Orcust engine. They have a lot of synergy. A lot of the Orcust cards restrict you from summoning anything besides dark monsters. Well, Gimmick Puppets are dark monsters, and they have some synergy in other certain effects. So first up for the Orcust engine, we run 2 Orcust Nightmare. You can banish it from your grave to send dark machines to your grave, so including Gimmick Puppets, of course. So you can either send Orcust Harp Horror or Simple Skeleton, but you can also send Dreary Doll or any other puppet you want in your graveyard, so that's really great. It's also easy to get into the graveyard with cards like Orchestrated Return, Foolish Burial, whatever. Then we have 3 Orcust Harp Horror. You can banish it from your graveyard, special summon an Orcust from your deck. And then we have 1 Orcust Symbol Skeleton, which is kind of the same like Orcust Harp, but instead you can banish it to special summon a Orcust monster from your graveyard. It's a very quick combo engine, and get out stuff like Galatea, other Link monsters in general, as long as they're dark, because these all have a restriction that if you use their effects, you can only special summon dark monsters. I run 1 Ibli, which is a pretty cool card. If you open up with it, you can normal summon it and special summon Nightmare Mermaid. But another cool thing about Ibli is that if you use her for a Link summon like Mermaid, she special summons herself to your opponent's side of the field. But the cool thing about that is that her effect only allows you to Link summon. So Ibli is actually a great counter to stuff like Nibiru. Then I run 1 World Wand, another level 8 Dark Machine, but I did debate on replacing it with something else. But it special summons banished Orcust monsters by banishing it, and it's of course a level 8, so a trade-in target. One of the last cards in deck is a Dark Greffer. There are a lot of level 5 plus dark monsters that you want in the grave, not in your hand. That's why I run 1 of this guy. And then the last 2 monsters of this deck, 2 Ash Blossom. It's Ash Blossom. Well, congratulations to me. I finally have 2 Ash Blossoms, but one is a Korean one. But it's a start, right? So those were the monster cards in this deck. Let's take a look at the spells. So to start off the spell lineup, we'll start with 2 of the new cards that'll be released in Legendary Duelists Immortal Destiny on September 27th. These are called Perform Puppet, so it allows you to banish a Gimmick Puppet from your graveyard and change the level of all monsters on your side of the field to the level of that Gimmick Puppet monster. So if you banish, let's say, Dreary Doll, all your monsters, not just puppets, all your monsters become level 8, which is really great for the XC summoning in this deck. So that's why I run it at 2. 3 might be a little bit much, because it can be a brick. Then its second effect, if a puppet is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon one of your banished puppet monsters, so it can retrieve that monster you banished for its first effect. Then we have 3 Machine Duplications. This has always been a staple 3 of. You can change one of your Dreary Dolls, one of your Humpty Dumptys, or one of your Terror Babies into 3 Humpty Dumptys, 3 Dreary Dolls, 3 Terror Babies. If you wanted to, you can also summon another Orcust Nightmare with this card, because it says up to 2, not necessarily 2. So it makes it really easy to go in stuff like Boral Sword. Just an awesome card, probably one of the highlights of the deck. So after that, I run 2 Trade-in. Oops. There are more than enough level 8 monsters in this deck, and they all benefit from being in the grave, at least most of them. So that's why I run 2. 3 is a bit much, I experienced, so I just kept it to 2. A very similar card to trade in is Orchestrated Return. Same reason to trade in. It's able to discard a Orcust or World Legacy monster from your hand or your field and draw 2 cards. Then I have yet again 3 Called by the Graves. Almost all of my decks either revolve around graveyard setup or searching the deck a lot, and if that gets stopped, well, you're screwed. So this will remain a must-run card in basically all of my decks, so that's probably not a surprise. So 2 Twin Twisters. Normally I run this card in my side deck, but I wanted to try it out in the main because it also discards and it gets rid of back row, so Pendulum Hate. I was also debating on, instead of 2 Twin Twisters, running 2 Pancratops, so I might do that in the future as well. But I just wanted to see if this kind of works. So this is kind of a little experimental phase right here. Then we have the classic. There's never not a card you want in the graveyard. That's basically the only reason I run it. So last up are our 2 trap cards, Orcust Crescendo. It's a searchable negate from Galatea. Full Orcust combo. And negates are always good, especially if they are searchable. So that was the main deck. As you might have noticed, no rank up cards or anything like that. I'll go into that a little bit later. Let's go into the extra deck. So to start off the extra deck, I only run 1 Chimera Doll. Why just 1? It does search your deck for puppets, either sends it to the graveyard or the hand, and then if you only control puppets, you can special summon a Gimmick Puppet from your hand. But the thing that I don't like about this card is its heavy summoning restriction. So if you use this effect, you can only special summon machine XC monsters for the rest of this turn. So you still can summon Dingirsu, but early in the combo, this isn't so great. So at the moment I only run 1. I've been switching between 1 or 2 or 1 or 2 all the time, but at the moment I only run 1. Then we have 2 Galatea, including the beautiful ultimate rare one. So 2 Galatea. She's probably one of the best cards in the deck. You can return a banished machine monster. She's probably one of the best cards in the deck. You can return a banished machine monster from to your graveyard, and then search your deck for a Orcust spell or trap card like Crescendo or even Return if you want. So, and you can rank her up into Dingirsu, which is great. Then we have the Nightmare package, Mermaid, Unicorn, and Phoenix. Nightmare Mermaid is amazing, can special summon Orcust Nightmare from your deck. And lets you go off into other monsters. Be sure to start your combo with either Phoenix or Mermaid, because if you use the Orcust effects, you can only special summon dark monsters for the rest of this turn. And as you can see, only Unicorn is a dark monster. So next up is one of our boss monsters, Boral Sword Dragon. Orcust is very good at bringing Boral Sword Dragon out, and in my opinion, Gimmick Puppets really help, especially if you can use Machine Dupe on some of your puppet targets to get more monsters on the field. So the rest of the extra deck is all XC. We have Gimmick Puppet Gigantus Doll. This is also one of the new Gimmick Puppet cards. He requires 2 level 4 Gimmick Puppets, so you can summon him with stuff like Humpty Dumpty or Terror Baby. He's okay, but I only run 1 of him because he also has these heavy summoning restrictions, just like Chimera Doll. What he can do, though, is he can, by detaching his materials, he can steal 2 of your opponent's monsters and then also change them to level 8. But you can only special summon Gimmick Puppet monsters for the rest of this turn. So the stealing is cool, and the fact that you can use them for your Gimmick Puppets is cool. But it's pretty situational, and you rather have other monsters you want to go into instead of the Gimmick Puppet XCs, so just 1. Then we have number 15 and number 40. They are basically in there if you lock yourself out of other extra deck monsters. Gigantus Doll's effect, Chimera's effect, you can still summon these guys, but I wouldn't recommend using them early in your turn or early in the duel, but only basically if you can't do anything else. But even though they're still pretty useful, number 15 is monster removal that you can use up to twice per turn, and 40 in this deck at least is just a 3000 attack beater. Then I run 2 Ding Dongs of the Orcust of the Evening Star, right? That's his name, right? I'm using the Japanese version because I don't have an English one at the moment, but this is also one of your awesome boss monsters. You can summon him by overlaying on Galatea, but because we're using a Gimmick Puppets, we can also summon him regularly by 2 level 8 monsters. He can protect your cards from destruction by detaching one of his materials. So you can also detach one material from him to send one card your opponent controls to the graveyard without destroying it. Pretty cool. And or you can attach one of your banished cards to it as material. So it's basically a Gimmick Puppet in disguise. I still rather go into Dingirsu than I go into an actual Gimmick Puppet. So one of the last minute additions to this deck, number 22 Zombie Stein, otherwise known as Filthy Franken. He's a effect negation card, so you can detach one card from him as material and send a card from your hand to the graveyard and negate the effect of one of your opponent's monsters on the field. You have to switch him to defense position though, because he isn't a 4500 beater after using his effect. And then the last 2 cards are Nyarla and of course Azathoth. So this deck has quite a few awesome rank 4 possibilities with Machine Dupe and Humpty Dumpty Terror Baby. Azathoth is just a busted card, preventing your opponent from activating stuff for the rest of the turn. And I really love these cards. I had the room for them, so I decided, why not? So that was the extra deck for this Gimmick Puppet deck. So another combo in this deck is basically Trap Trick together with their new trap card Puppet Parade. Puppet Parade is basically a card that allows you to summon as many Gimmick Puppet monsters from your deck with different names. So that sounds great, and especially with Trap Trick that you can activate it the same turn that you set it. But just like a lot of other Gimmick Puppet cards, Puppet Parade has the restriction that you can't summon anything besides Gimmick Puppet monsters that turn. So I opted to not run these. And also no rank up magics. I mean, C40 is a pretty busted card, but not worth relying your entire deck on. Not focusing on the rank up and Puppet Parade and Trap Trick and the C monsters. In my opinion, it's better, and it prevents that awful restriction of being only allowed to summon puppet monsters and actually run bad cards to just play one good one, if you know what I mean. So that's why my deck is a Gimmick Puppet deck without the rank up combos. So yeah, finally, I made a Gimmick Puppet deck profile. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. So I really want to thank you for watching. If you have any tips, tricks, other busted combos with this deck, let me know. I'm always open for feedback. Like I always say, I'm more of a collector than a player, so my deck profiles might not always be the best of the best. But in my opinion, this was a great version of Gimmick Puppets, not focusing on the rank up magics and more on the link summoning and the spamming of the field. So yeah, I'll probably see you in a next video. We're gonna do an opening of the new Immortal Destiny set, so stay tuned for that. And I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.